Peace, everybody. Bye-bye.
Ooh,
You
praise
done?
God. That's
Is that your meeting?
yes. Oh God, thank you.
Oh, we are live. Hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress, Kentucky. We have got a really special episode for you tonight. First, we're going to cover the news of the week. We've got some very interesting stories we're going to cover. We've got breaking news about Russia-Iran. We've got a look at the COVID epidemic. We've got really important news about a few special elections happening very soon. And then we have got our wonderful guest, Kentucky author and essayist Silas House. Really excited to hear his perspectives on our Commonwealth and why our common interests are so challenging to unite around. Finally, we'll wrap up with our call to action and events calendar. So, got a great show for you tonight. First, though, are you ready? Are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? We know our Commonwealth has some work to do if we're going to beat back the tide of bad politics and policy from Frankfurt. From limiting school districts' ability to keep our kids safe to working desperately to breathe new life into the big lie and fire up efforts to make it harder to vote. If you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, join Progress Kentucky. It's really easy. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, kind of wherever you spend time on social media. Make sure to like and share and comment on our content. And if you really like what you're hearing right now on Kernels of Truth, give us a thumbs up, give us a review. Reviews really help for podcasts, but if you're watching this live, just give us a like and share the show out to your friends. And before we get into the show, I want to just check in with our co-hosts, and you know how we do that here. Who are you? Where are you? What does your protest sign say today? Because we are not some sort of talking head media show. We are a digital demonstration for a more compassionate Commonwealth. So we want your protest sign. What does your protest sign say tonight? You there in the internet, feel free to make a comment. If we like it, we can actually highlight it on the screen. But me personally, my name's Aaron Viles. I'm coming to you from Childsburg, just in the outskirts of Lexington, really bumping up against that growth boundary. And my sign says tonight, did you like the special session? Then don't sleep on the special elections. Next up, Kimberly.
Hi, Aaron, everybody. I'm Kimberly Cecil Jones, and I'm coming to you from my living room here in Louisville, Kentucky. So my actual protest sign says today, because I love President Biden and I believe in what he's saying, I want to show my sign. It says, can you see it?
It's kind of reflecting. I can't really see.
Okay, can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Oh, yeah, there it is. Right there. And I'm with you. Tax the rich.
The rich.
Nice.
Yes, that's my protest sign today.
Awesome. How about you, Nate? All right, Nate. Try it one more time.
All right, let's try that one more time. Hey, folks, this is Nate Orshan coming live and direct from Kitchen My House here in lovely South Frankfort in Kentucky. And tonight, my protest sign would say, special elections. It's a very lame sign. Special elections are coming. Vote, vote, vote. More on that in a little bit.
Fantastic. Really excited for this great crew to present to you news of the week. All right, so getting into the news of the week. First off, we're going to do a bit of a COVID update. As we all know, tragically, schools continue to be the front lines of the Delta outbreak. And it seems to be that basically every day there's some new horrible story about the cost to schools and to their employees. Last week, we got the news that Hart County's 2020 Teacher of the Year had died of COVID, who seemed like just a really wonderful, amazing woman who, really invested in her kids. It's just really tragic that the leadership of the county wasn't nearly so invested in their safety. And I think that makes at least 41 K through 12 Kentucky school teachers and other employees who've died of this dreaded virus. These are coaches, bus drivers, janitors, just really tragic. But I think, and this number is jumping around a little bit, but I think as many as 154-ish of the 171 school districts in Kentucky are right now requiring masks. So this is, of course, they wouldn't have to be making this decision, but for the special session where the Republican-led legislature in both houses kind of overruled the governor's and the education, the education board's efforts to put in place a statewide school mask mandate, and they kind of put that energy down and that decision-making authority down at the county level. But I'm super grateful that maybe more than 154, but over 90% of the school districts are in fact choosing to require masks, choosing to do the safe thing. But not all of them. And if you look at the map, you'll see that there's a few spots where folks are not choosing the safe move. And I think there's a lot of politics in this. That information that we're sharing is being pulled together by AFT 120 and then Kentucky Equal Justice Center. And as this conversation is happening, we're seeing the number of folks in the hospital continue to stress our hospital resources. We're still seeing some very high levels of COVID throughout our commonwealth, and unfortunately, the legislature absolutely removed the ability of the governor to do everything that he wants to do to make our communities safe. So that's, I think, where we're at right now. But that freedom movement, and I say freedom, D-U-M-B movement, we have got folks rallying in Glasgow for horse dewormer, the right to take horse dewormer, because more and more hospitals are saying, no, wait a minute, we're not going to allow these, non-FDA approved treatments, and that's, I think, the smart move, obviously, but there really is a lot of there's a lot of concern, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of misinformation, and again, folks, just don't take horse dewormer. Get your vaccination, get your shot. That's what's shown to be the most, the most protective. If you look at the folks who are in the hospital right now, the folks who are dying of COVID, the vast majority are folks who have not been vaccinated. Getting the vaccine, means you are like 10 times less likely to end up in the hospital than somebody who doesn't get their vaccination. So it's absolutely something we need to do. We need to confront it head on. So I don't know, anyone else have thoughts about the COVID situation right now in Kentucky and kind of how this kind of movement is, I wouldn't say it's building, but it remains this kind of entrenched opposition to, listening to doctors, listening to experts, and trying to find some alternative route because, you learned more by watching YouTube videos than the CDC, who's got, multi-million-dollar budgets and experts, who spent their entire careers understanding how epidemics work and what we can do about it. Kimberly or Nate, any thoughts about this current COVID situation here in Kentucky?
Yes, most definitely. you just wonder, when is this going to be over? And then I thought that you could get this ivermectin. I thought you could get this from like, Feeder Supply or something of that nature. But I found out you have to have like a vet or a doctor to prescribe it to you. So I really want to know, who are these doctors and vets that are prescribing this to people for COVID? And I know right here in Louisville, there was a situation where the judge struck it down. The woman wanted her husband, who has COVID, who's in the hospital, to have the ivermectin administered to him. However, that was struck down. That will not happen. But we have to do something. I also read an article, Aaron, that in the entire country, we're way up there. I think maybe in the whole entire country. I have to look back and see. But we have the most filled beds for COVID, basically, in this state, which is alarming to me. So, I mean, what are we going to do? Just continue to tell people to get vaccinated, right?
No, that's absolutely true. We have to tell people to get vaccinated. We have to find the most compelling spokespeople to get that information across. I did think it was, the height of just ignorance and outrageous behavior when, folks like Robert Stivers, the Senate president, and others, I think Ralph Alvarado similarly, were, basically blaming the governor and blaming, Dr. Stack for being, too strident about getting the vaccination. And so that's why people aren't getting it, because they've been told to. They've been, fussed at so much by our governor and our chief health officer at the state, which is just astounding. But, I think it gets at some of the, the tribalism in our politics, and it's absolutely putting us in a situation where, we have got to, as our governor suggested, have the uncomfortable conversations and just, try to appeal to people's humanity and appeal to the people in the community that can't be vaccinated. Our kids under 12 right now, the folks who have, immuno disorders and are far more vulnerable. So yeah, we're in a situation right now where we got to come together. We got to find ways to get across to one another. I don't think it's shaming people. I don't think it's making fun of them for wanting to take horse dewormer, as much as that's, crazy to me, but it's appealing to that kind of common good. So I'm really excited to talk to our guest Silas House about that very issue. I think he's got some really wonderful thoughts about it. He's written some impressive stuff about our common.
Aaron, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So it has come out that our children that are the age of 5 to 11 can now be vaccinated. Praise the Lord. Do you think that a lot of parents are going to actually take their children to be vaccinated?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the fact that, we haven't seen the rates of vaccination in the 12 and up, 12 to 17 range as much as I think we would like. But there are certainly a lot of parents who are eager to get their kids vaccinated. There's a lot of kids who are excited, are eager to get vaccinated. So I think we're definitely going to see, a bump in protection, a bump in community resilience because of, folks jumping at that chance. I hadn't seen the news, so that's absolutely something that, I want to, make sure we've got the opportunity as soon as possible. And again, I've talked to my wife about it. It's not a decision I'm going to make on my own, but it's definitely one that we're going to make with an eye towards, towards safety and trusting experts at the CDC and elsewhere. So, and Nate, anything you got to add into our kind of COVID conversation here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope I'm not stealing our esteemed guest Silas House's thunder by giving away a little bit of this great article, this essay that he had published in the Atlantic in August, called "Some Americans No Longer Believe in the Common Good." But as dire as things look, and as sort of galling as it is to see some of our neighbors and relatives and fellow townspeople behaving in a completely selfish manner, in a tribal manner, as you say, Aaron. The good news is that these folks are in the minority. that Kentucky's vaccination rates are actually on par with the national vaccination rates. We're just a little bit behind the national. I think it was 62% across the country and maybe 58% in Kentucky. I'm not sure whether that was only one vaccination or two, but the point is that we're tracking with national trends, and B, that's more than 50%. So no matter what, no matter how horribly some of our country folk and commonwealth residents may be behaving, they are truly in the minority, and that's something to at least take some heart from.
I think that's right. And I think, absolutely people are just done with this pandemic, right? I think there's more and more frustration with people who are holdouts for no good reason, people who are, kind of buying the internet conspiracy lies and are looking for, ulterior motives in the experts that are trying to keep us safe. I think that more and more people are just done with that, right? People want to go back to normal as much as possible. And we're, each and every holdout means we're, not as close as we could be. So it's good to hear that more and more people are getting there. What we know is that mandates work, right? So, as much as we've tried, pizza roll coupons and, the shot at a million and, some really creative ways to incentivize vaccinations. Now that the FDA's approved it, the military is saying you have to get it because the military says you have to get every vaccination, basically. And if more and more employers kind of follow suit, we will see more and more people get the vaccination. And I think that's an important and sound, smart step, and the step that's come out of the White House in the past couple of weeks to encourage that, I think is really important. So, all right, so let's move on to story number 2, which I believe our friend Kimberly has got queued up for us. Maybe you are muted.
I love being muted from time to time. It just makes the program so exciting. People can wager bets to see if Kimberly will unmute herself in time, right? So I bet you $5 next week, Aaron, I will have my mic unmuted on time each and every time.
Ooh,
is that a bet?
I will take that bet. There's $5
I really don't want to take your money,
yeah,
but I will.
I don't think you will. If I'm being honest here, I think that's money in the bank for me. Tune in next week. Tune in next week, viewers, and find out who owes who money.
Yeah, and I'll give you my Cash App tonight just so you can be prepared. So talking about one of my favorite subjects when it comes to talking about someone, which I normally don't like to do, but when it comes to the top 3 in my book, which is Trump, Mitch McConnell, and Rand Paul. So today we're going to be talking about Rand Paul. Rand Paul came to the Kentucky Sheriff's Association last Thursday. It was down in Bowling Green. And basically he was speaking to law enforcement at the conference, saying that he will continue to fight for increasing police funds and that he wants more positivity for the police officers. And just to sum it up for you, he's saying defund the police is a terrible, rotten, no good idea, and we need to resist it. Also, there was someone there, also a warrant deputy there, that really feels like Rand Paul listens to them. He's hearing them because Rand Paul is stating that he remembers when the attempted coup or insurrection, however you want to call it, happened on January the 6th, how the officers whisked him away to safety. And he also spoke with this other young man that's a Warren County Chief Deputy Officer, Kevin Wiles. He relayed some information about his experiences to him and to the other officers there. Wiles had been in law enforcement for over 24 years and says he gets his joy from protecting the community. And he understands that things are a little tough right now. So Rand Paul was in sync with him, acting like he was really listening to him. We don't know if he really was or if he's just on another train. But Paul said that he's going to continue his advocacy for police officers all around this country, that they need to be more respected and have a more positive look on them. I guess, when we think about police officers, maybe when we were younger and there was something called community policing, a lot of us had a better look about the police because we knew them and they knew us. But right now, I also want to put this, and I would like to know what Rand Paul would say about this, what's happening right here in Jefferson County. The contract was disregarded. The FOP disregarded the contract. They're working diligently with little time to come up with a contract that will be feasible for both sides, for the city as well as the FOP. However, the FOP disregarded the contract because they said that President of the council, David James, had made mention that there was money on the table that could most certainly go to the officers. And this was said quite some time ago, and he did walk those statements back. But the FOP, they even used that statement in the contract. So now we're back to square one, and one or two things can basically happen with that. One can be that they will resort back to the old contract until something is done, or a lot of the community activists are saying, well, there's a lot of stuff that the people wanted in this contract that's not in the contract. And knowing that the DOJ is investigating the Louisville Metro Police Department, doesn't seem like there's going to be this amicable decision. And also, maybe there is some hope for police officers, especially here in Jefferson County. And I wonder what Rand Paul will come out and say. This morning at about 6:20 a.m. this morning here in Louisville, there were 3 students just standing on their bus stop. They attended Eastern High School. There was a drive-by shooting. All 3 were injured. 1 was shot and killed at the age of 16 years old. And just moments after this gruesome murder, this morning, the school bus happened to pull up. So JCPS and LMPD are both saying that they're willing to put all of their resources behind finding out who did this heinous crime this morning. So I'm wondering what Rand Paul would say about that, and what kind of contracts will go on between LMPD, FOP, and the city, and what are other officers saying around the state as well, knowing all the problems that we do have here in Jefferson County. Back to you, Aaron.
Yeah, I think, Rand Paul's clearly kind of position himself as the anti-defund the police, anti seeking any accountability from the police candidate for this upcoming election, right? And meanwhile, I'm sure he's going to look to do as much as possible to contrast himself versus Charles Booker, right? Who, of course, Charles Booker came to prominence in his kind of underdog race against Amy McGrath. The Breonna Taylor issue, and the movement for justice, I think, absolutely gave his candidacy kind of a tailwind and gave him a lot more attention because he spoke very kind of authentically to the situation. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people remember that, and I'm sure that Rand Paul's not an idiot as much as we like to make fun of him. And he is going to try to make that a kind of a wedge issue. Like, oh, look, Charles Booker wants to, defund the police. But Charles Booker, I think, obviously cares about the community in Louisville, cares about this Commonwealth. And I think looking at what's happening in Louisville, and, Kimberly, you can speak to this far better than I can, as a resident. But, you get that sense that people want safety, but they also don't want to just give the cops a blank check to run roughshod over their community because they've seen what happens, in that situation. So I think it's really a tough situation for community members who want, community policing. They don't want a militarized police force, but they also, they don't want their kids getting shot at bus stops, and that's just tragic.
Can you honestly believe that now residents in this city, which our crime rate per capita is worse when it comes to murders than Chicago or New York or Atlanta or Houston or LA. And when we look at these situations, we say to ourselves, how can we even allow our kids to go to school? If they're going to be shot on bus stops, just by freewheeling gun owners, legal or illegal. I have no idea. Maybe it's gang activity. Who knows? It hasn't come out yet. But sometimes I think, Aaron, that we as progressives, sometimes we have to really work on our messaging, because even some Democrats that I know don't even understand defund the police. And we're not talking about the fodder that, Rand Paul is going to use. They don't want police at all. No, we're talking about defund the police, meaning, take some of that money that police officers are not able to do social services, psychiatric things, unless they've been quite trained in that, which we do have some officers here with LMPD, like the assessment team that will, Our Lady of Peace or one of the other facilities can call. They can go out to someone's home. But guess what? They're coming to people's homes to do assessments, mental health assessments, and they have on police uniforms. That's already a recipe for disaster. So we need to kind of work on that messaging a little bit so that everyone can truly understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think, as much as defund the police is not a great slogan, I do think it's an improvement on NWA's first draft, right? So I think, we absolutely have moved a little bit in a better position. But obviously I think you're right. It's about what you're funding in your community to keep your community safe. And it's not all about the police. There are other things that can provide better services, be more responsive, and actually help the root causes of crime, as opposed to just, some militarized police force showing up, to crack skulls. So I think we probably need to move on, because we actually have a couple of stories we want to cover, and we don't have very much time, and I don't want to leave our special guest hanging for too long. So Nate, can we move on to your story?
Can we ever? Well, what's this one about? I'll let you know. It's special election, special election, special election, baby. What's that, Nate? This is 2019. Woo! This is 2021. I thought I could sleep this year out. No, mis amigexes. You have a special election to vote for this upcoming November 2nd if you live in the following counties. If you're in Adair or Taylor County, that's the 51st district, you need to vote for a state representative to replace Representative John Bam Carney, a popular Republican from Campbellsville who sadly passed away at the age of 51 this past July. If you're in Garrett, Jessamine, Mercer, Washington, or part of Fayette County, I don't know which part, but that's all the 22nd district, you need to vote for a state senator to replace Senator Tom Buford, a Republican of Nicholasville who sadly also passed away at the age of 72 in July. July was a very hard month. And if you're in Jackson or part of Laurel or Madison counties, again, don't know which parts, but that's the 89th district, and it includes McKee, where my honey kid is right now, London, and Berea. You need to vote for a state representative to replace Representative Robert Goforth, a Republican of East Bernstead, who at age 45 is very much still with us, but is dealing with criminal indictments for first-degree strangulation and assault in the fourth degree. Ooh. And is there a Democratic candidate hoping to get your vote for representative in the 89th district now that Goforth is, going forth? Yes, mis amigexes. That's May Suramek, a 48-year-old entrepreneur who started and still owns Noodle Nirvana in Berea, but who also has a really impressive human rights work and activism in her resume, including some time spent as an investigator for the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Human Rights Commission and almost a half-decade as the executive director of the Bluegrass Rape Center. Suramek's Republican opponent is Timothy Truitt, the current principal of McKee Elementary High School and also the owner of Truitt's Pumpkin Patch. We probably don't want to give Mr. Truitt too much attention, given that we're pretty much totes progressive over here. But raise your hand if you'd like to get May Suramek on the kernels of truth before then. Throw your hands all the way. Wave them round if you vote for May. Throw your hands all the way. Wave them round if you vote for May. That's it. Go vote.
That's wonderful. I did not expect so much music in your segment, Nate, but I appreciate that. Yeah, so May Cermak seems like a great candidate. And you know, the way the special elections work, there's not a primary. So the local party gets to kind of appoint, recruit, plead for somebody to step up and run in these situations. And so May Cermak, great candidate, will absolutely be be a great candidate, and also in the 22nd district, that is Helen, Bukulamez, we'll say, and that is also an individual who's got, I think, a great track record of working for the people already. Also, I just recently learned that Helen's, I think, deputy campaign manager is our own Annabelle Nagel. So that is pretty exciting, and I think that means we'll probably, maybe have a shot at getting Helen on the show as well. So at any rate, really important elections. Pay attention, get involved. They're going to be low turnout, which means that everything you do as an activist has an impact. Making phone calls, texting your friends, knocking on doors, COVID cautious, of course, wearing your mask, whatever. But I do think there'll be opportunities to get involved, and I encourage folks to get involved. All right, so we're going to move on. If it's okay, we're going to move on.
No. I got to say one thing. Aaron, I've got to say one thing. Nate, right. You is not Vanilla Ice nor Eminem. Keep your day job.
Fine.
I loved it though. I give you a 10 for the effort of that rap. I will. I just had to say that, Aaron. I'm done. I'm finished. Let's get to our world-renowned guest. I'm so excited.
I am really excited as well. We're going to keep him hanging for like one more minute though, because we're going to do this breaking news. Rand Paul, Mitch McConnell's former campaign manager, was indicted on multiple counts of fraud and illegally assisting a Russian national in making campaign contributions. This is just happening now. Moscow Mitch, Russia Rand, their team loves to work with Russian oligarchs. They are so fond of Russian oligarchs. Rand Paul was, of course, passing on love letters from Trump to Putin. He went to Russia to do that. Of course, we know Moscow Mitch, allowed for Russian nationals to own or invest in aluminum plant here in Kentucky. Really done some really just yeoman's work for Russia out of our Senate contingent. And it turns out that's not just the senators themselves; it's actually their staffers as well. So this is from the Louisville Courier-Journal. Mary Ramsey reporting on that with some help from Morgan Watkins. This is Jesse Benton in the news again. He is married to a niece of Senator Rand Paul, Rand, who's made these trips to Russia. Mr. Benton's been charged due to working with a Russian foreign national to make an illegal campaign contribution to an unnamed political candidate. Although if the math checks out, it looks to be very clearly a presidential candidate, Donald Trump, is what the timeline looks to be. If he is convicted, Benton faces maximum penalties of 5 to 20 years in prison. And the Justice Department says, that he is somebody that would be definitely up for a full span of that, because this is a guy who has gotten a hit before. He was actually pardoned by Trump. So that seems interesting. This guy who accepted a $100,000 wire transfer from this foreign national, deposited the funds into a company that he controls, and then made a $25,000 contribution to the politician. So Jesse made $75,000 for his efforts. The Russian national got to go to the fundraiser, got the picture with the candidate, and what happened there. This is a breaking story. There will be more details coming out, but it definitely shows that a lot of these Republican politicians and political operatives, folks who have very strong ties to our current senators, were willing to play fast and loose with the law and absolutely the ethics. And here we are. This is a guy that he did get convicted of criminal charges related to an endorsement scheme during the 2012 presidential primary that involved a plot to provide $73,000 in payments to a former Iowa state representative to get him to endorse Rand Paul's father, former U.S. Representative Ron Paul. So he got tagged for that. He got indicted. He got found guilty. Spent 6 months on home confinement and 2 years on probation, and then he received a full pardon from Trump in December. That would be very interesting if it was in fact the politician that benefited from this scheme, along with Benton, if that was Trump. So we'll keep digging. We'll find out what we can about this and share that information. But what I do know is that this guy is no good. Nailed twice for similar schemes, and that is what we know today. So that was news of the week. If you want to talk more about the Rand Paul's campaign manager and his illegal maneuvers, please take it to the comments. I think it's outrageous. I think it's something we want to go deeper on, but we just don't have the time tonight. So we are going to move on to our interview. But first, a quick Progress Kentucky appeal. Remember, folks, if you like what you hear on Kernels of Truth, please consider supporting our efforts with a financial investment. We've got a goal of raising $1,500 for our current organizing projects, and we're less than 20% of the way there. So we've got some work to do. You can go ahead and invest in our efforts. If you want to turn Kentucky purple, if you want to help make that happen, there are just 412 days until we got a chance to fire Rand Paul and celebrate at his retirement party. Please make a donation at our secure server, ActBlue server, and help support the work. All right. So next, we are in fact moving on to the much promised interview with Silas House. And Silas House is the New York Times best-selling author of 6 novels, including his most recent, Southernmost. His writing appears frequently in The Atlantic and has been published recently in Time, The Advocate, The New York Times, and many other places. He's a former commentator on NPR's All Things Considered, and is the host of a radio show and podcast called On the Porch. House was an executive producer and one of the subjects of the 2018 Hulu film Hillbilly, which won the LA Film Festival Documentary Prize, the Media Prize for the Foreign Press Association, and many other honors. He serves on the National Endowment for the Humanities. He serves as the National Endowment for the Humanities Chair at Berea College and is on the fiction faculty of the Spalding School of Writing. Thank you so much for joining us, Silas.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, we have had our eye on you as a guest for quite a while. We're really glad that you've been generous with your time and make some time to chat with us tonight. I am a fan of your essays in The Atlantic, and I think you've really developed a real, an ability to tie your experiences growing up and living in Eastern Kentucky with these kind of current events and political issues that we are wrestling with right now as a society. Your most recent piece is entitled "Some Americans No Longer Believe in the Common Good, and they're now thinking only of themselves." It's really hard-hitting, contrasting your kind of grandmother and her community's experiences during World War II to the seemingly quite minimal steps folks have been asked to take to limit the loss of life during this pandemic. In our COVID coverage, we're talking a lot about schools right now. One thing I found really interesting in your essay was that you actually had a conversation with Jimmy Diehouse, who is the superintendent of Science Hill Independent School District, which, as we look right now, is one of the holdout school districts, does not have a mask requirement. And in fact, when that mask requirement was put in statewide, I think he had a call to all the parents of the Science Hill Independent School District, calling Andy Bashir the liberal lunatic for trying to keep his kids safe. Tell me a little bit about that conversation. How did that go?
Well, I wrote that piece for the Atlantic mainly after I heard the recording of Die House's robocall to all the parents. I wanted to hear his response when the first thing I asked him was, some people think that it's a small sacrifice to wear a mask, even if there's the possibility that it might save somebody from getting COVID. And his response was, well, why should I have to do that? And I just think that's so indicative of the problem today. This idea of not understanding, or maybe just not caring about the commons, the common good, being part of a solution, working together, thinking of your neighbor. To me, it just seems like such a simple thing to put the mask on. I don't get it on one hand, and on the other hand, I get it because I've seen so many politicians like Rand Paul politicize it. And I always want to point out that his family benefits from people suffering from COVID. His wife purchased stock in Gilead, which was a COVID treatment in the early days of the pandemic. And so it behooves him to go around and tell people not wear the mask and not get vaccinated. That's really problematic on lots of levels. And so I think, I was looking for ways to sort of fight the anger that I have at that selfishness that I'm witnessing. And writing the piece really did help me, as writing often does, as writing always has, because it made me think about how this vocal minority, and they are a minority in Kentucky by a slim margin, because now 51% of Kentuckians are fully vaccinated. But they seem to be controlling us on so many levels, even though they're the minority by just a couple points there. I just don't know how some people can sleep at night risking children's lives. It boggles my mind. My mind has been boggled for the last 5 years, though, so it's nothing new.
There's a lot of boggling happening right now, for sure. Well, I think it's a really impactful essay, and I know that it hits on themes that we ourselves, here at this show, we want to struggle with, right? We want to find that commonality. We want to break down, polarization. I think Kimberly's got a question along those lines.
Yes, I do. First of all, I just want to pinpoint something that you said. You said Gilead. And my God, I'm such a Handmaid's Tale, fan. And it just brought to mind the gruesome evilness in that show, in which we show sometimes in America with some of these politicians. Mr. Silas House, let me ask you, where do you think that we lost sight of the common good? We are the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So you would think it's a concept that we're reminded of frequently, but we're not seeing it at any time really that much during these times. And second part of that, do you think that one administration that was before Biden, do you think that had a lot to do with it as well, even trickling all the way down here to good old Kentucky?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is that, I don't think that any politician, certainly no president, is perfect. But I do think that a president sets the tone, especially in times of great crisis. In such a troubling time as the pandemic, Trump set the wrong tone in just about every way that I can think of. And, he's built his whole career, his whole reality show career, and his political career. The lines are blurred there, of course. But he built all of that on greed, selfishness, and celebrating that. And so I think that was the thing I was most shocked about when he was elected president, was that my whole experience of him, because he's been around most of my life in the media, has been associated with selfishness. And so I just don't think there's no way to separate his presidency from that lack of willingness to sacrifice a little bit for your neighbor. And again, it's not like we're asking that people are being asked to do anything incredibly difficult. They're being asked to wear a mask at school to protect children. That just seems so simple to me. I mean, I think most people I know would go to huge extremes to protect a child. And yet so many people have rejected this notion of just wearing a mask and acting like it's, an infringement on their freedom and all this ridiculous stuff that has been put out there by politicians and by talking heads on the so-called news, on social media, all this misinformation. So I think it is a combination of just, for 4 years, really not having a leader who was a good example of participating in the common good. It became all about me. Not that it hadn't been before, but I think that escalated during that administration and was really celebrated. I think one of the things that's troubled me so much over the last 10 or 15 years is the celebration of narcissism. When I was growing up, that was a cardinal sin. That was the worst thing, to be accused of, was to be, if somebody said you were conceited or highfalutin. And now it's like, people become celebrities because they're narcissistic. So to me, it's like we're living in the upside down or something. And it's felt that way a while. And Trump really fed on that and built that and turned it into just a tremendous monster, I think.
I think you're right, Mr. Silas. I really, truly do. And I also believe that no matter what someone believes in, whether it's, Jesus Christ as myself or Buddha, just Hinduism, whatever it may be, I think that people need a higher power to look up to have some moral stability. And I think that we've got a really bad spiritual problem going on in the world today, and especially in America. But I'm just praying. I'm still going to keep praying and hoping and staying optimistic that here in Kentucky, we can get to some sort of commonality and respect for one another again. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm right there with you. What else can you do at this point but just keep hoping and keep working? That's why I appreciate what y'all are doing. And one thing I wanted to say is that every little bit counts, and every little bit that we can do really matters. I think sometimes people think, well, I shouldn't speak out, I shouldn't say anything because I'm not out there marching in the streets and etc. I really think that those day-to-day forms of social justice and those day-to-day acts of protest that we do just, in the office or when we're at a cocktail party and somebody, spreads misinformation or whatever, I think those are really important acts of protest and important acts of social justice. And we all can participate in that in whatever way we can. There are many ways to do that. And that's something that I have always told the young people in my life, especially, is, to use the talents you have to fight back in whatever way that is. Not all of us can be out marching in the streets, but some of us can be singing songs and some of us can be on a podcast or whatever, and making sure that factual information is shared, etc.
Wonderful. I think Nate has our kind of final question for you. Nate, what do you got?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Well, we don't often get an artist to speak with us here on Kernels of Truth, let alone someone who casts such a long shadow across the bluegrass and even across the nation. And having said that, I'd like to circle back to that August article of yours in The Atlantic regarding our apparent epidemic of self-defeating selfishness, where you put the blame for it, accurately, I'd say, on demagogue politicians and on their allies in lying. I guess what I want to ask about that are two things. Do you think we can harness art to counter the lies effectively? And can the truthful messages in art scale to meet this avalanche of misinformation and animosity?
I mean, as a writer, I would like to believe that's possible. What I do believe is absolutely possible is that when I write an essay or a novel, or I do a reading or whatever, I am just hoping that I can reach one person. And I think if I can reach one person and give them information that they didn't have before, or get them thinking about the common good, or get them thinking about what it means to be a good neighbor, to get them thinking about if they're being told just absolute falsehoods by the people they listen to on the radio and TV, etc. I just feel like if I can reach one person, then it was worth writing that essay or that novel or going to that reading. And that's really all I can hope for, is reaching that one person, and hopefully reaching more and having some part of them changing their minds on these things. With that said, I think that first and foremost, I'm a novelist, but when you are a Kentucky writer, you sort of have an extra responsibility put on you. And I don't totally understand why, but I think one reason is because Kentucky is often a microcosm of America. And as much as we talk about the way the whole country looks down upon us, I do think that a lot of the country thinks that we're the worst of America, but a whole lot of the country also thinks we're the best of America. And in fact, what we really are is a mirror for America. And so I think there's a long history of Kentucky writers who do talk about these issues in a way that maybe in other places, if you're a novelist, you don't get called on to speak out on these issues. So on one hand, I didn't expect that when I wrote my first novel. I didn't know that would be part of it. But on the other hand, it's given me an opportunity to voice my opinion and have some small, whatever little voice I have. It's enabled me to spread the word about issues that are really important to me, like environmental devastation, or LGBTQ discrimination, or women's rights, or the way that rural people are negated, the way working class people are negated, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm thankful to be asked for my opinion, and I just want it to be as informed as it can be. I really try my best to do that. And I think that's what we should all strive for. In a time when we have so much information at our fingertips, the danger is that we get the wrong information. So we have to work much harder to make sure that that's the right information. I think that's the beauty of the internet and also the curse of the internet.
That is wonderful. Well, you have been, again, so generous with your time, and thank you for visiting with us tonight. And I think our viewers, a lot of great comments about what you've shared and the role you've played to help lift Kentucky up and speak to some of the negative stereotypes that are out there. You truly are, I think, a treasure for our Commonwealth, and I think you do bring a lot of just insights into some of the communities that we don't know as well and need to understand a little bit better if we're going to find ways to bring our Commonwealth together so we really can achieve Commonwealth. And it isn't just about the powerful versus the powerless, or those who tap into horrible political sentiment to win political power, to then continue to deliver for folks who aren't delivering for the real people. So, and I appreciate you sharing your views with us tonight and your time. And we will all look eagerly for your next essay, your next book, your next foray into the public square.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate what y'all are doing. And I just wanted to quickly say that I really think the Atlantic is doing really great journalism right now. Magazines and newspapers need people to subscribe to them to keep good journalism alive. So I think that's one way of fighting back, is to keep journalism alive. It really is true that our press is on the front lines. And nothing gets my dendrite worse than this notion of fake news. So that's a whole other conversation, of course. But thank you all so much for what y'all are doing. I appreciate you.
All right. Have a great evening. Thank you so much, Silas. All right. So we're now going to need to wrap it up. As we move out, we've got our action event calendar and our call to action, which I'm going to turn to my wonderful co-host, Kimberly, to present.
Thank you, Aaron. You are so wonderful. The call to action is Progress Kentucky has joined the Kentucky Voting Rights Coalition. It's an association of that's committed to ensuring that previously incarcerated people reclaim their right to vote and want more citizens across our Commonwealth registered and voting in every election. They have some events coming up to put these goals into action, and you can find out more about their efforts online. So there will be door-to-door for canvassing on September the 25th, right in Lexington for voting rights. And you can go to mobilize.us KFTC/event. Then there is PAR, People Advocating Recovery, annual recovery rally on September the 25th, right here in Louisville, Kentucky at 615 South 3rd Street. And you can go to PAR Rally, that's PARRALLY.org. There's also going to be a voting rights table there as well, just to let you know. Then also the Kentucky Democratic Party has launched something called Ready to Run. It's a new training program for prospective candidates and staff, envisioned to provide the building blocks to win Democratic campaigns right here in Kentucky. There will be a few sessions, but the first is September the 23rd, which is tomorrow. So to learn more or to apply, go to kydemocrats.org. Now, this is exciting, you guys. National Voter Registration Day is September the 28th. Progress Kentucky will be doing some tabling to get folks registered. This will likely be organized in Frankfort. It might be a few days before or maybe after. This effort will be headed up by the super activist Deborah Grainer, with support from our organization and organizing team, which is Kit, Sandy, and others. So if you're interested in doing some voter registration in a COVID cautious outdoor manner, make sure that you're on our email list to be alerted. And finally, Progress Kentucky has launched a petition to urge the Kentucky Board of Medical Licensure to investigate the unethical and dangerous medical advice from Dr. Rand Paul. We're closing in on our signature goal. We are very, very close to 500 signatures, at which point we will file an official grievance with the board and hopefully get Senator Dr. I got other names for him as well, Paul's Kentucky medical license suspended. If you think it's dangerous and irresponsible to instruct people to get arrested instead of following mask rules that will save lives, please sign and share our petition. You can find it at Investigate Dr. Paul. Investigate Dr. Paul. So next week on Kernels of Truth, I'm really excited about this. We're excited. The whole team basically here at Kernels of Truth is excited because we're going to have someone, Mr. Jim. Aaron, do we have Mr. Jim's last name?
We do. It certainly exists. He has one. And I am definitely going to look for it right now. If you keep talking, I'll find it. It's
Okay.
Jim Chef. It's Jim Chef, everybody. Jim Chef.
Jim Chef, okay, of Kentucky Heartwood, which is an important organization that speaks for the trees, a little like our Commonwealth's own Lorax. They're doing some critical work helping protect our own national forests, like the Daniel Boone, from multiple threats, logging, development, invasive species, climate change, the list goes on and on. So we're really looking forward to having Jim on to drop some knowledge about how to keep our forests vertical instead of horizontal, which is so important. You guys, you have to be here next week. You may say to yourself, well, I've got other stuff I've got to worry about, but believe me, this is very important. No trees, the air won't be the same. No trees, it just matters. Just believe me. We'll have an expert here to talk about it next week. So I just want to let everybody know, for disclaimer purposes, that Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4, is affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, affectionately known as CAVE, okay? Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Some of the graphic content provided tonight was by Couchfire Media. Couchfire Media ignites multi-camera, live stream, educational, and commercial video production content. More information can be found at couchfiremedia.com. Production this evening was by our own Annabelle Nigel, our senior social media chair. I think I just gave her a new title. I think she'll accept that. I hope it's okay with the board, okay? But I think I love me some Annabelle. Thank you so much, Annabelle, for, volunteering tonight. You did great to help get our live stream out to people. You are a superstar, girl. I just want to let you know. And if you guys knew how young she was, you would not believe it. But this girl packs a powerful punch. And also, I want to let you know about the Jones Report. It's a weekly live national, local news and talk, international conversation show that occurs on Sundays, and we'll be starting really soon. We're going to keep you updated on that. We're revamping everything for you and the show. My co-hosts are Mike Breuer. You may remember him, running for senator, and Miss Betsy Foster, who's a dynamic political icon here in Kentucky, and hosted by yourself. Of course, you knew that. Kimberly Cecil Jones, because it is called the Jones Report, right? So you can find it right here on Facebook on the Jones Report radio program. Thank you, Nate, for your great rapping tonight. If I was an A&R rep, I would sign you tonight. Okay. And thank you for the theme song that we hear every week. I want you to make up a rap to the theme song. I think that would be great. But you can find more information and music from our own Nate Orshan right there at natosongs.com. And that's natosongs.com. And if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook, don't worry. Don't fret, my pet, because you can also hear us. Yes, you can. You can hear us on all of our other sources, and the links are on our Facebook page and on the screen tonight. And if you prefer, who wrote this? If you prefer not to see me, I know you guys want to see me. I don't know about Aaron or Nate, but the audio podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. I just want to give a big shout out tonight, all of us do, to Mr. Silas House, New York Times bestseller. Like, we have arrived, y'all. We have a Mr. Silas House on. We have arrived, okay? And then I just want to give a shout out to, our great host, one of the best hosts in the business of being progressive and making changes for all of us. Great host, running neck and neck with me, but my brother, whom I call my brother, Aaron Viles. And to all of you out there, you know what I'm about to say. Do something nice for someone this week. a smile, a heart emoji when you're sending them a text, a quick phone call. We kind of forget about phone calls. And, just open your heart a little bit more to everyone as you go through this week, and let your positive energy just come out, right? So do something nice this week. It'll make you feel good, and it'll make that person feel good too. So until then, same bat channel, same time next Wednesday, we'll see you with Mr. Jim from Heartwood. Am I right, Aaron?
Kentucky Heartwood, Jim Chef.
Yep. See you next week.